Ken! Ken! You are the man! You nailed that stuff. Nailed it. I was very impressed. So even though you had a limited amount of time to work, I mean, you got it. Very good. You suddenly, you're like on this roll now to where you were just kicking ass. So, fantastic. So now, let's take a look at some new things. So we're actually going to finish up the bends today. This is pretty much all the bend ideas that I show people. And then we're going to start finger tapping and just continue on with our new 16th note rhythm patterns. So, last time we had some of those bends like this. And yeah, that's right, the only thing I would look at is this thing. I couldn't hear that high E string when you did that bend. When you're supposed to hold the 7 here, 5 and 5. That's the only thing. Everything else, you nailed it. So yeah, it's like doing that bend here with the 12 and 13, only bending up the G string. You can get the same sound doing it on the E and the B string, like on 8 and 8. So we're going to kind of use that sound, but change it up a little bit, how we're going to approach it. So, what you're going to do now, you get both the frets down, so you're bending the B string with your 3 fingers, holding the E string with your pinky. And if you look at the tab, what you do first, you pick the notes, bend it, keep it up, then it hits your E string, B string, then you release it, and then finish with a pull off. And you're going to do that for the rest of the exercise until the end. You're going to have like chord bend, to where you're going to hold the 19 on the G string with your middle 2 fingers, index finger on 17, pinky on the 20 on the E string, and then you pick those 3 strings, but you bend up the G string a whole step. There we go. Let me turn the volume off on my phone just in case we get interrupted. Alright. Okay, so let's run through that whole first bend exercise for today. I just played the wrong thing. I am not on a roll. Here we go. Kind of goofing it up today. One more time. Okay, the next thing, if you look at the tab, hopefully you can see that the bend arrow is directly on top of the fret number. That indicates a pre-bend. So again, when the arrow for a bend is directly on top of the fret number, that means you're going to have a pre-bend. So as the name implies, you're going to have the string bent up before you pick it. And you're going to follow it with a bend release. This is really a guessing game. If it's a whole step, bend it kind of hard. If it's a half step, just bend it a little bit. So it's a guessing game because you can't hear the string go up to where it's supposed to be. So that's the nature of the pre-bend, but you get kind of a feel for it as you go, and you're just kind of ballparking where that note's supposed to be anyway. I mean, you kind of have to. But this is what we have now. And that's it. Just careful on that third bar, you're only doing a half step bend there. The others are whole steps. This last one I got from a Zakk Wylde lesson. Zakk Wylde is not a very good teacher on those lessons. He speeds through things so fast. But I managed to figure out this one riff he did that I thought was pretty awesome to play. It sounded really cool when he did it. But I warned you, it's pretty tough. At least it was for me, and it is for most people. So what you're going to do is set your hand up for this in advance. So you got your middle two fingers on the 7th fret of the G string. You're going to have your index finger 5th fret of the B string, pinky on the 8th fret of the E string. So it's kind of like the bend we did over here. You're setting your hand up the same way, but we're not going to strum and bend that way. So what we're going to do, now you're set up, so you pick the G string, then you bend, keep it up, and then you have pick the E string, B string, G string, then release. After you release, you need to adjust your hand so you're able to pull off from that 7 to the 5. Then you pick the 7 on the D string. Now you notice on the tab it says let ring, and then it has the horizontal line go across, and then it's met by a vertical line. That means when you pick that 7th fret on the D string, you want that to ring out along with the other notes coming out. So you have the 7th fret on the D string picked, and you pick the 5th fret on the I think I said D string, I hope so. Then you pick the 5th fret on the G string. So both of those should be ringing out. But you see on the tab, you're supposed to bend it a whole step. Now, this is one of those times where you have an exception to the rule on how you're going to bend that G string. In order to keep the D string ringing out, you have to pull the G string down to the floor, and only with your index finger. That's one of the reasons why this thing was such a pain in the butt to get down. So you pick the D string on 7, pick that G string on 5, pull it down so it goes up a whole step, then you release it back to the D string on 7. So it is possible to do. It just might take you a bit. So here's the whole thing together. That wasn't written in there. I just had 5, 5, 5 on the G, B, and E. But I'll talk through it this time. So you got your hand set up on 7, 8, 5. So pick the G string, bend up, pick the E string, B string, G string, release, pull off to the 5, pick the 7 on the D string, keep that ringing out, pick 5 on the G, pull it down so it goes up a whole step, release, and then D string again on the note you're already holding. And you can actually get this one pretty quick. Let's do that again. I didn't quite get the whole step. Sounds pretty damn cool. All distorted. Alright, enough of that. Finger tapping time. Bit of warning, you might get a blister on your middle finger from this. I have developed quite a few over the years. Thankfully, I think I've finally done it enough times I don't get the blister anymore. So if you do get a blister on this, and this happens with a lot of people, it really does. Especially like when I was learning how to play bass, those fat strings, my fingers like rubbing against the metal there. I get blisters all the time, and unfortunately I would wait too long to start playing again to start to build up the calluses, and I just blister up again. So if you do get a blister, it's a very good idea. As soon as that thing heals up, get right back to tapping, so this way you callus up. And you might not get a blister. Some people don't, but I certainly did. So you look at the tab. Let me grab some water here. Okay. So if you look at the tab, hopefully you see a capital T above the first note on each bar. That stands for tap. On some tab books and magazines, you might see a plus sign instead of a T. That also means tap. So you'll either see a T or a plus sign. Now, I also wrote in each bar there 4 times in parentheses, so you're going to play each bar 4 times. Now, some things to keep in mind when you're going to start finger tapping. There's all kinds of stuff that I see people doing that they're my pet peeves of finger tapping. Things that I never do, things that I never advise people do, because the way I look at approaching any technique is, how can this be approached so you're able to do more things in the long run? The way a lot of people finger tap, and the way I think most people finger tap, they do it in such a way that it's detrimental to further develop more difficult things. That's just my opinion. So anyway, what you're going to do when you start finger tapping, do not put your pick down. Keep holding the pick. A lot of times people will put the pick down thinking, oh, I don't have to do that now because, you know, I'm just finger tapping. But no, you want to have it ready to go at any moment's notice to be able to just start playing, you know, for example, something we'll get to eventually, sweep picking into a tap. So you basically do this, and then you go into a tap. There's no way, if you're like putting the pick down or like palming it or something like this. I know Van Halen, he does finger tapping kind of like that. And he's the one that popularized it. But I say he has bad finger tapping technique. It works for him to achieve the sounds that he wants, but he is kind of limiting himself on what he can do. Although that one song, Mean Street, God, I can't remember how the hell that thing goes. I don't know, he does some kind of weird tapping thing that actually works out well because of the way he holds the pick, because he's doing like some kind of slap thing. But anyway, that's a whole different technique. Let's see. Right, so just hold the pick all the time. So you're going to be tapping with your middle finger. So again, you're able to like go from chords, do things like this. It just makes it so much easier in the long run just to practice holding the pick. The other thing is the direction your tap hand... Uh-oh, what did I just do? Okay, good. The direction your tap hand or your finger is going to go is another thing that's important. Now, when you learn pull-offs, the idea was you're literally pulling off the string, and you're pulling your finger down in towards your hand. You're not doing this to where you're like flicking something, right? But that's what most guitar players seem to do when they learn how to finger tap. It's like they push and then they flick away. They're doing like flick-offs, not pull-offs. Now, we've gone over how to do finger style playing. The same idea applies to your finger tapping. So after you tap this note, in order to tap, you're just going to take your middle finger and push it down onto that note. You might have to do it a little bit harder than you expect until you kind of get the muscle memory on how to do it, kind of hitting the sweet spots and all that. But you're just pushing down on that 12th fret, and then you hooking your finger off, just like you're playing the finger style. Just like that. So you're pulling your finger in towards your hand. The other thing is, don't use your wrist. Don't do this stuff. Don't have your, and you also need to keep your palm on the string. See how it's resting there? Just like when you were doing your bends, you had your palm over here muting those lower strings, right? So you're going to do the same thing with finger tapping. Your hand is going to be muting out the lower strings. So literally, you really want to keep it in the middle finger as much as possible as you're doing this. I think that just about covers it. So just refresh all that. Keep your pick in your hand when you do your finger tapping practice. You're going to use your middle finger to do the tapping. Don't use your wrist to do it, just your finger. Have your hand resting on the lower strings to mute, and then make sure you hook your finger in like that. So you're pulling it. You're not pushing it off. It's not a push off or a flick off. Pull off, just like you were doing the finger style playing. I just had one last thing. Was it right? Now Buckethead does something called nubbing. It's kind of like a multi-finger tap thing. Another reason why I recommend that you don't flick away is so you can do stuff like this eventually. You can't get that kind of speed by flicking away. It's not going to happen. This is not something I practice very much. You may notice I have to kind of change my angle there to be able to play these things. So more advanced stuff will require you to break some of the rules we just talked about. But anyway, now Buckethead's nubbing thing, he somehow palms his pick in a way I'm not really sure. I think he might do it like this, but then he does something like this, so where he's using all 4 fingers eventually. Anyway, it's just this wacky, like, rapid-fire chromatic finger tapping thing that he does. He calls it nubbing. So, you cannot reach that level of speed by flicking your fingers away. You have to do it like you're finger plucking, finger picking, okay? Alright, so enough chatter about that. This focus on the first exercise is really to make sure you're getting a good tap, pull, tap, pull, tap, pull. So each one's going to be done 4 times, trying to make an even sound and even spacing on the notes. So just a nice 1, 2, 1, 2. Keep using the metronome just like you've been doing, and you should be fine. So here's the whole first thing. Once you get comfortable with that, move on to the next thing. This is a very popular finger tapping pattern. So where you're going to go tap, pull off, hammer on. So tap, pull, hammer, tap, pull, hammer. So basically you want a nice even 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 as you're doing this. So here's this exercise. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next page, continue our 16th note rhythms. So something to keep in mind, moving on to these kinds of patterns can sometimes trip people up, because we get so used to doing the 8th note patterns the way that we did, that sometimes the right hand might get kind of wonky, or the foot will tap more than it's supposed to. So just remember, the big thing to remember here is, because we're dividing the beat up into 4 parts, you got to look at it as you start with your downstroke, and then you have an up, down, up, and the idea is to keep that fluid motion going the whole time. You don't want to stop it right now and then do something else. So you look at the first count here, it has 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4. So what you don't want to do is this. This is not what you want to do. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4. See, I went on the 2 and I did it like the old 8th note way. But now that we're looking at 16th notes, so you can keep a faster strum going the whole time, you're going to go 2 and. So both parts are going to be down strummed. So the downbeat and the upbeat now both get a downstroke. It's in between the down and the upbeat that we have the upstrokes now. So hopefully that makes sense. So if you need to, something that's helped people get the hang of this is just practice going like you tap your foot and do 2 downstrokes at the same time. So do this if you feel you have to. And let's go ahead and knock these rhythms out. So here's the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4. kind of expanding on that idea. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a 1, and 2 E and a 3, and 4 E and a. Now, the next one is actually referred to as a gallop rhythm. Iron Maiden is quite famous for it. It's called a gallop because when you play it really fast, it sounds like a horse gallop. So we're going to do it slower than that. And we're going to do 2 different gallop rhythms. First one, kind of the intro. Second one, a bit faster chord changes. So here we go. First gallop rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a. Now, one reason why I had you get used to doing like that is hopefully you see like in the gallop there, because like if you went like you're the 8th note wave, like going like the down, up, like down, like the 1, and then you'd be switching up the way you're picking it, and it wouldn't work very well. That's too jerky. I know some people do it that way, but I think it's too jerky. This is so much more smooth. Just having that back and forth the whole time. So that's why we approached it the way we have, or we just did. Alright, so last rhythm. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a. The only thing to really point out else, besides what we've done, is some people have a tendency to try and switch chords too soon when doing this gallop rhythm. So like at the end there, when you go like 4 and like people will like start to switch the chord on like the like on the upstroke. It's important to make it sound as precise as you can. So you get your 4 and a 1. So you're going to be bump boom. That downstroke for the next chord and the switch to that other chord has to happen at the same time. So just switch it right away at the same time. I think that covers it all. As always, let me know if you have any questions. So I'll be going over this in the email as well. But like it says in the email, next week, Halloween. So I know we like hardly ever miss lessons, which is great. But we do have 5 Saturdays this month. So remember the 5th week is always the free one. So I'm going to ask that to have that day off because I am going to be getting remarried that day. So I apologize for not saying anything sooner. It was kind of a surprise thing getting put together. It was like my soon-to-be wife is in the process of finding a job, and there was a possibility that she may have had to work on Saturday, but it's like I really wanted to do like a surprise kind of wedding thing, just the 2 of us, not you and me and her. So yeah, just please let me know, like respond to the email, let me know that that's cool with you. And if you have any questions with this lesson stuff, definitely let me know. So yeah, November coming up. So that would be start of a new payment time. Just let me know if you want to do, like, how you want to do it. I think, you know, you did like 6-month payment last time, so if you want to do that again, we can definitely do that. But cool, man. Again, fantastic job with the material. Absolutely fucking great. Fucking great, damn it. Yeah, big improvements. So keep it up. You're doing great. So see you soon.